Welcome back, guys. In this one, we're finishing off the second leg of the trip. We're flying from Portland to Los Angeles. Here we are in Venice Beach, just enjoying the vibes. Beautiful weather, can't complain. And of course, you know, we had to hit up SoFi Stadium and watch the Rams play. Even though they're not that good, we got that plug with the box seats up top. And we head up Huntington Beach to enjoy some more of the beach weather. You know, we had to get out there and hit the links as well, even though the weather was a little bit overcast. Alright, hope you guys enjoyed all that extra stuff, but I know why you're here. The poker, Hollywood Park Casino in California. Let's get straight into the action. In the first hand here at Hollywood Park, we're in under the gun 1 and we opened to $10. We're going to get called by middle position, the button, the small blind, and the big blind. The big blind only has to call $5 more. I'm an idiot. I forgot we're playing 3-5, no limit hold'em, so different stakes than what I'm used to, but ace 5-9 flop. We flop top pair, decent kicker. One small blind, big blind check to me. I standard continuation. I make it 25. The middle position and the button are both going to fold along with the small blind. But now the big blind surprises me and raises to 65. I feel like most other aces would just call here, even like a slow played ace jack pre-flop. So I'm honestly debating a fold right now. I don't really like my ace 10. We didn't even beat ace 9 or ace 5, but we can't go anywhere for $40 more. Maybe we hit an ace on the turn. Maybe we hit that 10. I'm not sure what we're looking for. But when we go heads up to the turn, it comes the 4 of diamonds. Pretty big brick in my eyes. Now we don't even beat ace 4. And he insta-shoves, as you see across the table. He smacked his chips right in the middle. Super excitingly for him. So now my ace 10 is not looking good, as he likely has a set of 9s or 5s. And I decide to fold, and he shows us the ace 9. So nice hand by my opponent, and we're going to lose a decent sized one early on. Don't worry, we're adding on for another 100. We got to play to max capabilities. In this next hand, we have pocket 5s. We're in middle position. We see one fold before under the gun 1 makes it 15. Another fold. I decide to call. And the cutoff actually calls as well, before the button raises to $50. Small blind and big blind are going to get out of the way, and the initial raiser is going to make the call for 50. Assuming the cutoff is going to make the call if I make the call, I feel like I'm getting a fair price to set mine. We're going to make the call for $50, committing well over 1/5 of our stack. Yeah. But the cutoff is going to make the call as well, so I do think we're getting pretty good odds to set mine and get paid by one of our opponents. They hit top pair. But there is a risk of getting set over set in this situation too, so I don't like this play. Of course, we see a bunch of high cards on the flop, and small blind checks to me, I check it, cutoff checks, and the button bets like 120. When the small blind folds, I have no choice but to fold because we didn't flop a set, and cutoff gets out of the way as well. So we're just lighting money on fire, and we got to turn it around soon. Which is why we add another 100. We got to keep adding on, and we're not liking it. So we decide to play King 9 suited. We're in the hijack, and we decide to open at $15 after the under the gun decided to limp. The button is going to make the call. The small blind calls before the big blind rips it all in for $40. And now the under the gun limper is going to make the call after he limps for $5. He's going to limp for the 40. I don't see much decision other than the call here, so that's what I do. The button and the small blind both come along as well. So we're going 4 ways to the flop for a side pot, and the one player is all in the main pot. When the flop comes 7-6 king with 2 spades, when the small blind and the limper both check to me, I go for the standard c-bet with my top pair. I don't have too much behind, so I do like this $60 bet as it gives me enough room to jam on the turn. So I bet $60. The button quickly folds, and the small blind is going to make the call. So putting him on a flush draw or maybe a pair and some other draws, but he calls and the limper gets out of the way as well. So we're going heads up to the turn, which is the 3 of clubs, adding another flush draw on the board. So when he checks to me, I debate just checking back, being scared of a better king, but that should really never be the case here when he just cold calls on the small blind. So I just decided to get it in here versus a flush draw or some combo draws that he could have. And he pretty quickly makes the call again. So we see a pretty big pot brewing. The main pot plus the side pot. I assume I'm going to scoop the whole thing. And when the river comes to 8 of clubs, the backdoor flush gets there, but that should never be the case. Small blind mucks his hand, so we take down the side pot. And the big blind just pocket 8s for the rivered set. So
nice hand.
He breaks our heart and takes the main, but we'll take the side. Moving right along, we decided to see change across the table, and we pick up a premium ace-king. We're in under the gun 1, and we see 1 limp from under the gun for $5, so we open at $20. It's going to fold back around to that under the gun limper, and he's going to be the only caller. So we're going heads up to the flop, and I'm going to let you guys hear the commentary that my opponents gave, and it actually did make sense to what they were saying. So here's what they had to say about the hand.
Oh, yeah. Dylan states he meant to check in the dark. Checks in the light.
We'll fight.
He's always going to see bet here.
I see bet around 30% fine.
And he calls. We're going heads up to a turn.
Checks in the light again.
I'm not sure what I'm going to do here. Front door hearts get there, so we're going to check back for pot control. In the river, nothing really gets there with the 8.
He's pretty much just giving up on his pot. Probably can't get too much value.
We're going to see if we can bet him.
Thank you to my opponents for giving that commentary. And now I decide to place a smaller bet of $30, trying to make it look like value, but clearly I showed up to the river with ace-king high, so I'm trying to get him off any of those smaller pairs that he might have gotten to the river here with, because he clearly doesn't have a flush. Most queens would have bet the turn or check raise flop, but in the end he decided to make the hero call with 7-8 offsuit, so I got on, and well played by my opponent. In this next hand, it's open from under the gun to $10. The middle position, the hijack, the button, myself, and the big blind are going to make the call. Little unorthodox, cold calling an early position raise from the small blind. I don't recommend this, but it pays off in this hand. When we flop the nuts on deuce 3-5 with 2 spades, I'm going to play in flow and check it. Big blind checks as well, and the pre-flop aggressor bets $20. Middle position is going to make the calls as well as the hijack. The button is going to make the fold, so one person out of the way. Thinking of a sizing, what to do, I decided to raise to $70. Might be able to get away with just shipping it in here, with not much behind, but I decided on 70. After the big blind gets out of the way, the initial aggressor decides the price of poker is going up even more.
70? Alright, let's do this much. For the vlog. That's all in.
Well, given this action, I'm hoping the aggressor has some sort of hand now. Maybe pocket 8s, pocket 9s, pocket 10s, pocket jacks. You know, any of those hands that he should or could have. And now the hijack decides his money's getting in the middle. I snap call when it gets back around to me. Of course, I didn't add on right before this hand. I was about to, but, you know, that's just how poker goes. And, of course, we have to fade some outs when 2 opponents are all in. And here we go to the run out with the nuts. Looking to fade some black cards. Jack of clubs and king of clubs. We're good. The initial aggressor mucks, but he just wants to see the other opponent's hand. And the other guy has king 8 of spades. So he had the second nut flush draw, and then he rivered the king to take down the side pot, but we're happy with that main pot, and we scoop it with the flop nuts. So cold calling from the small blind is not recommended, but when you got a decent hand against an aggressive player, it's okay. So we're going to take down this massive pot and onto the next. After that massive hand, we're moving it right along. We're in the hijack and we have king queen offsuit. We see one limp from the middle position, so I decide to raise it up to 20. The button is going to make the call, that aggressive opponent that we stacked in last hand, so he's looking for revenge. The big blind comes along, and that limper comes along as well for the 20. So, not the ideal outcome, but we see a decent board in 10 jack 4 with 2 clubs. While we are going to have the overpairs and the sets here, I should be proceeding with caution, but when this big blind and the limper check to me, I have the overpairs and the high cards, so I'm going to c-bet for $40. Probably could have went 30, just about 1/3 pot, but either way, we're going to bet $40, half pot, and button is going to make the call, small blind's going to get out of the way, and the limper is going to make the call as well. So not the ideal scenario. Putting the limper on possibly a flush draw or a combo draw, and putting the button on a 10x hand, or those smaller pocket pairs. So when the turn comes to 6 of spades, that adds a second flush draw, and hoping my opponents will respect my range, when the limper decides to check, I decided to fire out for $90, looking like I have those overpairs, and trying to get value from those jack x 10x hands. But in reality, I'm just hoping for a fold. And with my $90 bet, the button decides his hand is good enough to go all in. So I can't do much with king high and just 2 overs. I do have that open-ended straight draw, but if he happens to have a pair and a flush draw, could be drawing slim on my outs. So the limper folds, and for about 160 more, I can't do much but make the fold because my opponent actually has a white under all those chips. So he jammed for about 240, and there's the jack. So I was trying to get him to fold that, but I should have known he's a sticky player. And moving right along, this pocket 10s hand, we're in under the gun, and we decided to open at $20. Pretty standard size, and the big blind is going to be the only one to make the call. Glad he's giving me some action. He's been running hot all day, so hopefully he's not running hot against us. And we're going heads up to a flop, which comes 7, 3, 5, with 2 hearts. When he checks, I did my standard continuation bet, like I will with all over cards and over pairs like I do in this scenario, and I make it 20. He pretty much snap calls. Not what I like to see, and the turn makes it scarier with the 4 of clubs, making a 1-liner to a 6, but when he decides to check here, he could have a lot of random cards like 2 overs, and I have to deny equity from these types of hands, so I decided to bet for $50 now. With this, he's going to make the fold rather quickly, so glad we got that little bit of action and won some money back, but don't worry, we're not done yet. Moving right along, we look down at Queen Jack offsuit in under the gun. It is a little loose to be opening, but I open at $20, and the middle position is going to make the call. Same opponent from the last few hands. The button is going to make the call, and the big blind. So same 4 as last hand, 4 ways to the flop, which is a pretty decent flop, which is king 7 jack with 2 hearts. In multi-way pots like this, I like to start out with check, even with strong hands, and a pair of jacks, which is pretty mediocre in this spot. I check, and that aggressive player decides to bet $20. The button is going to make the call for $20. Big blind's getting out of the way, and with a pair and some draws, my opponents could just be stabbing, so I'm going to make the call as well. So we're still going 3 ways to the turn, which is the 4 of clubs. Pretty blank card. I check, and now that opponent to my left decides to check. The button checks back, so feeling pretty good about my jack. When the 3 of clubs rolls off on the river, I decided to check call in this spot. I don't think a lead would make much sense, as most of my ace kings would have, king jack type hands, kings jacks would have raised the flop. So I'm pretty capped to 1 pair, and now when my opponent to the left decides to raise to bet $70, I don't think he's very strong here. Like I said, or like I would do, most kings would bet the turn to keep putting pressure on those lower pairs or those flush draws. So I don't think my opponent has a king here a lot of the time. And I'm going to fold if the button calls, but luckily he folds, and that makes my decision rather easy. I'm going to stick in the call for 70. My opponent says nice call and mucks his cards, so glad to be taking down one from that aggressive opponent after he got me good last hand. And looking at our stack, about 650-ish, and we're going to rack up. But no, we're not done with the session quite yet. Stay tuned. We didn't have time to get away from the table after we racked up, and we picked up pocket aces. Our last hand. We racked up and we're about to walk away, but the dealer dealt us in. So we gotta play. I'm literally setting up my phone stand, as you can see here, ready to see the action of this game. See this last hand, because I'm looking to get my money. Like, let's play. Pocket aces. Can't get much better than this. We see one limp from under the gun. I'm in the middle position. I raise to 25. We get called by the small blind and the big blind. So we're going 4 ways to a flop, and it's a pretty decent flop with aces. 10-4 deuce with 2 hearts. When all the opponents check to me, I decide to c-bet for $60. Pretty straightforward bet here. And now the small blind is going to go all in for $215. Oh. Let's go into the live game audio.
It's good content. This is true. Do not play out of the rack.
Let's see it on the vlog. Dealer, I want to see both hands.
Yeah, you're good. This is why you don't play out of the rack. My opponent's going to take it down with the turned flush, and we lose with pocket aces out of the rack. We're headed to the cage, super sad, after racking up and playing that last hand. A lesson in new poker players.
Just getting done with that session. 3-5 session, which was a little weird. At the beginning, that first hand you saw, I was used to the 1-2 or 1-3 stakes, but I adjusted with those opening sizes to $20, $25, $30. And a lesson to all new players: never play out of the rack. As you just saw, I lost 70, but I feel like I lost more because I was up and then I lost at the end. So a little lesson there. Honestly, I hope everyone enjoyed the video. Wanted to make it like a little travel vlog and throw some extra clips in there other than poker. And obviously, I hope you enjoyed the hands. Hopefully you learned something, or let me know on any spots I could have done differently. But that's gonna do it from here. About to head to the airport, get on this plane, even though it's been delayed all night. So hopefully I get home. And that's it from LA. Peace.